Welcome back to the Fishing Daily podcast. Today I'm joined by Patrick Murphy, CEO of the Irish South and West Fish Producers Organisation. Welcome back, Patrick.
Hi, Oliver. Hello to you and the listeners.
Patrick, to kick off, we're going to speak about the Irish Fishing Masters Register and the serious implications of it for the fishermen around the Irish coast.
Yeah, I think, Oliver, people don't realise that this applies to every single boat that has an Irish registration number on it. And this then is extended to every single person, and I mean every person, man, woman or child, well, over the age of 18, that is an Irish citizen. So anybody that takes charge of a boat when they come in and land on a pier, right, is subject, as we know, to being met by one of the Sea Fishery Protection Agency. And they're being tasked by our minister now to check whether you have been accepted by him onto the Irish Fishing Master Register. And this was set up to be in compliance with European law under the penalty point system for masters and skippers. But this has been extended by our own government and our own minister beyond a register of offenders to a register of anybody that could take control of an Irish fishing vessel. And to read out the jeopardy of this, it's this: I hereby declare that I sign this document freely and voluntarily with the full understanding of its contents, and that the information that I have provided herein is true to the best of my knowledge and belief. And that if any information provided herein is found to be false or misleading, I will be liable to prosecution. I understand that this document may be used in evidence in criminal proceedings. Now, my viewpoint in that is this. This is a declaration. The person that's making this declaration is saying that this declaration is of their own making. Because that's what a declaration is. You declare. What you say after that is your words. But in this case, that's not applicable to an Irish citizen signing this form. And remind people, this is only the form to get onto a register. And the minister has made it a criminal offence for filling in a form. And that criminal offence could deny you your rights as a skipper or a boat owner to take your boat to sea to earn your living. People have to understand this. And not only that, so I'll give you an example. So in the inshore sector, me personally, I would take out my son or my brother or a relative with me when I was out shrimping for a day to help me out. And the reason being is maybe the next day I had to go to a wedding or a funeral, and I would ask them to take out the boat and haul a few strings for me, right? In that instance, they become the master of the vessel. They too have to be on the register. Now, the fines are enormous. It's 15,000 euros for a person who will hire somebody who's not on the register. It's 5,000 if you do not have your certification that says you are on the register. People don't understand the jeopardy that this has put them in. Now, we in the Southwest took legal advice, and we found out, in our view, it's our view, and the legal advice we had, if you make a declaration, you make the declaration. It's up to you to decide what you make in your declaration. Like, we heard about the heavy mob in the Gardaí that forced people to sign documents, and they said, I declare, I sign, I freely and voluntarily sign. This is what it says. If you freely and voluntarily sign this, that means you shouldn't have to sign it. There's nothing free and voluntary about this. If you don't sign this form and sign that, you're not on the register. If you're not on the register, you're fined 15,000. The owner of the boat or the person that you're hiring costs you 15,000. Now, where's the freedom and the voluntary part of that statement? In response to what the minister had asked people to do, we took legal advice on the actual self-declaration. We never changed any part of the actual submission, the information that was needed in block letters. So your name, your date of birth, PPS number, nationality, your address, mobile number, email address, that information is required. We've no problem with that. We actually have no problem with some form of penalty points administrative system being brought into this country, provided it's a level playing pitch one that is the same as every other country. Now, we have a difficulty with our own laws here because we have constitutional law, not common law like they have in the European Union. So it's a different justice system. But setting that aside, what we found incredible was what the minister had added into the bottom of the form. So we changed the wording to this. I hereby declare that I do not sign this document freely and voluntarily. I am obliged to complete and sign this form in order to keep my job and my position as skipper. I do not have legal advice on its contents, but in order that I keep my position as skipper, I sign it while not understanding the effect of its contents. The information that I have provided is true to the best of my knowledge and belief, and I do not accept that if any information provided herein is found to be false or misleading, I will be liable to prosecution. I am not going to be prosecuted for filling in a form giving these details properly. I do not accept that this document may be used in evidence in criminal proceedings. So we sent this in and skipper signed it, and then it was revoked. Now, the letter that came back from the department said that it quoted the act, but it contradicted the act itself. So even the documentation that they sent back, they didn't even understand what was in front of them. It said that you had 14 days to appeal to the minister if he didn't put you on the register, once you knew the decision that he made and why. Instead, we were instructed, or both skippers were instructed, to fill in the form as it was initially prescribed, and that's it. And you had to do so within 14 days, or the form that you had originally sent in that allowed you to get your documentation to remain as a skipper or master of a vessel was revoked, and that the SFPA would be notified as such, and they'd come after you. That's what it said. So instead, then we took more legal advice. They said, right, maybe we were too hasty in changing a government document. So we've asked our fishermen now to fill in the form as prescribed, but we were advised to offer to anybody, this is a generic letter, that states this, that accompanies your form. Dear Minister, attached, please find my duly completed application and registration on the Irish Fishing Master Register on the form prescribed by Minister McConalogue. I ask you to note that I do not sign this document freely and voluntarily. I have signed and completed this form under duress, and because I am compulsorily obliged to do so in order to keep my job as my position as skipper, I do not have legal advice on the contents of this application form, but in order that I keep my position as skipper, I complete and sign it while not understanding the effect of its contents that may be detrimental to my interests. While the information I have provided is true to the best of my knowledge, information and belief, I do not accept that if any information provided herein is found to be false or misleading, I will be liable to prosecution. Moreover, I cannot accept that this document can ever be used in evidence of criminal or administrative proceedings against me, either now or in the future. You see, this has nothing to do with the penalty points system. This is to do with filling in a form. This is to comply with the minister feels is appropriate, which is not the same that we got back from the European Commission when we wrote and questioned this. The European Commission stated that was required was a register, but of offenders, not of fishermen, not of masters, with or without qualifications. So we believe this is complete overreach on behalf of the minister. And we've asked for this to be addressed. We asked for an extension to the closing date of the applications because it was signed into law on the 21st of April and it had to be completed and done by the 3rd, DSI. And we found this a very onerous task. We met with the minister above in the Skipper Expo show, And none of this was told to us. The following Monday, a press release came out announcing this. So we're not happy with this, but I feel that people don't understand the jeopardy that this farm filling, just a farm, puts you in jeopardy. Because if, according to the Act, you give false and misleading information, you can be taken off the register. If you're taken off the register as a man with a small boat, there's a living for one person, an inshore fisherman. But if he's not in the register, he cannot go fishing. It's duress. He cannot go out and earn a living because he could be met on the pier and fined, even though he has all his licensing, all up to code of practice, has never committed an offense, right? Has never been inside the courtroom because he didn't fill out the form or because some information was incorrect. He could lose his right to be on the register, which puts him in jeopardy, right? Nothing to do with penalty points, of being fined 15,000 euros and 5,000 for not having the cert on him. This is what the law states.
The EU Commission's intended this to be a register for offenders, and
Now,
what you cultivated into, they've turned it into a register for every fisherman, but at the same time, they're impinging on their civil liberties and civil rights.
oh, absolutely, and your property rights and your constitutional rights, because this is totally discriminatory, absolutely discriminatory, and we have evidence that it's absolutely discriminatory. Because foreign nationals aren't expected to go on this, which is a fact. And this is not me hearsay, it's a fact that fishermen in Irish registered vessels who are from foreign countries were told they need not apply. This is what's happening. This is discrimination against their own fishermen. And we have submitted our questions and on this legislation into the human rights. And we're not a word back. It is absolutely horrific what is happening to our industry in this country. Horrific. We are the targets, and we're an indigenous part of this country. We have a heritage. We have our own language. I don't think anybody from the city would come down and stand between two fishermen and come out and say, well, I understood what they said. We have our own customs. We have our own superstitions. We have our own way of doing things. We are an indigenous part of this country, and we're not being afforded the rights to be seen as such and protected as such. We're being wiped out. And, you know, this organization has constantly stated these facts, and they're facts from the outset. Just to bring your attention to this, this came out this month, the fact sheet. Can you see this? Is it clear?
Yeah, I can see
so
that.
This came out from the department. It's the fisheries fact sheet, May 2022. And in the second page, it says landings from Ireland's EEZ, and it says quota species caught in Irish waters, 530,000 tons from Ireland's waters. And of those species, we've landed 105. Now, we were absolutely vilified, and it was said numerous times that fishing, our quota, saying that, you know, we'd only 15% of the fish in our own waters, was completely and utterly incorrect. And it was more like 46% of the fish was being caught by Irish vessels in their own waters. And this at last has come out somewhere near the truth. I still think that maybe the landings, fish caught, where are these landings? Are there landings in other countries taken into account, or is it just the landings in Ireland? Because we have Irish landings outside Irish waters are 93,000 tons. So they're saying we have 193,000 tons of fish caught for our country. I'd say that's maybe around the right figures, but I still think that the species caught in Irish waters probably go up a bit. We have a country coming in catching over 200,000 tons of fish, or the rights to catch it, from Norway. You know, 219,000 tons of blue whiting, I think they're allowed to catch. And I'm fairly sure that we were told that it was being caught in Irish waters, most of it. That's a lot of fish.
The irony of the situation is that the EU has classified it as EU waters. If the Norwegians are talking about their fishing blue whiting off the Irish coast, it's in EU waters. And the problem is the EU owns nothing.
Yeah, like the rights we gave to the European Union when we joined in the Treaty of Accession and as it developed the common fishery policy, was the right to manage the fish stocks, sustainability, and the health of the stocks. You know, we didn't give away the fish in our own waters. We couldn't. You know, we didn't have a referendum on that specific issue. Like, they're the legalities of it. But we'll talk a bit about the common fishery policy review and the task force that we're sitting on, and the restrictive terms of reference that we've now, come a cropper on. And we feel that, the terms of reference should be expanded to include giving the minister all the information we feel he should have when he goes to Europe. And for me, it's very simple. After the TCA deal and Brexit, was the common fishery policy affected enough that altered it? Did it change some of the pillars that we have to prescribe to, which is relative stability, a word that a lot of people, are abhorrent to, because we got a very poor deal in the outset, and we're paying for that deal. But like, after the TCA deal, one of the ways of knowing for sure if you were affected is your fleet. And every year the SDCF, based on figures that are presented to them from the member states, put an analysis together on how well your fleet is doing in the different segments of the fleet. Well, I can guarantee you there is no way that the SDCF report, after seeing the losses that we have, will be able to say that our fleet can survive and manage on the quotas that we now have. So that's a huge adjustment to the common fishery policy. Now, I'm not asking or saying what the changes should be. What I'm asking is this: when something like that happens, when you see new legislation being introduced under the common fishery policy, which is our new policies, which is farm to fork, Green Deal, a change in the environmental pillar. So when you see that the fishing ground that we have off our coastline is going to be shared, a common resources it's called, right, with the fishing industry out to 60 miles, and taking away all that ground, we've lost the UK's ground, but we have access to it. But we're going to lose the fishing ground. Trust me, anywhere where there's going to be offshore development, it will not be possible for boats to be active, especially bottom contact gears around the cables or around those wind farms. It'll be too dangerous. And anybody that says that there will, and the amount of numbers, they're only codness, absolutely codness. So that's a huge change to the common fishery policy, because they weren't envisaged at the start in 1973 that this amount of ground would be taken over and lost to the activity of fishing. So surely be to God, the likes of them means that there should be a review. Whatever that review entails, a report isn't good enough. There has to be a review. We have to look at what enshrined the legislation in the first place, how the decisions were made. Just for instance, the Hague preferences. The UK left. Who took over the Hague preferences? They went back to the other countries. Why should we have paid a higher burden when the Hague preferences then didn't reflect that? So it's a review is what we're looking for. And if we don't get to that stage first, then we're sunk. Because without a review, a report will just say, thanks very much for your submissions. We'll take them under consideration. We'll do quantitative voting on this now, lads. The Irish have presented their case. Those in favour, raise your hands. Those against? Well, the only one that'll be putting up their hands will be Ireland. Why would the other countries allow for something to change that they may lose out on? So that's not going to happen. And any minister to go out to Europe with the same asks in the same manner when there's quantitative voting will get the same result as Brexit. We'll be shafted.
Clear that heading that way this week of that the Common Fisheries Policy Review Group is not a review group. It's a type of an excuse to make a report to tie up people and this sort of a situation that you actually believe that you're doing something. And the truth is, unless the Irish government makes the move, there's very little little for the Irish fishermen to be sitting around the table discussing it when there's going to be no actions taken.
Yeah, but you see, here's the dilemma. If we're not around the table, then even our voices aren't heard there, Oliver. At least there's going to be a record that we as representatives of the industry are going in there and asking the right questions, maybe making our own contributions and submissions, so that at least people can see that what I'm doing is my very, very best, following what my people are asking of me to the best of my ability, and pushing it as far as I can. At least there's that step. You know, we're criticized by people that we didn't go far enough with the flotillas. But you have to understand the crucifixion and the jeopardy that we would have put people in if they blocked the ports. There's legislation there that would just end businesses. Simple as that. We're already fighting wars on other fronts, and they are wars, like the atypical scheme, not fit for purpose. But who gets blamed? The fishermen. Why? They didn't develop the scheme. They're trying to work within the scheme. And we're told that it's not applicable then to the international laws for fishermen. 188, you know, for people can work 1 week, take the next week off. It doesn't work like that under the atypical scheme. We are being told, we fill in logbooks and log sheets, right? And the crew signed them. And now suddenly they're no longer acceptable. They can be questioned, overturned, and for whatever else. So we comply with the rules and what is put in front of us. And even when we do so, we're still told, sorry, that's not good enough. And you're demonized and you're blackened and you're doing the wrong thing. And, you know, it's never ending. And, you know, if anybody watching this, I'm as affected by this as anybody out in the water. This is, you know, a form of terror, to be honest, for not just the people that are out in the water, but the people here on the shores that are trying to fight for these people. Like, you know, this is about the future of our coastal communities. I live in a coastal community. If my coastal community is damaged or affected, there's less resources, less activity. It's a lowering of the standards for me and my family and my neighbors and everybody else around me. It's bad for the people visiting. It's bad for tourism. It has a knock-on effect. You know, we're on the periphery of Europe, as it is, an island nation. We have to get across the water to get to our markets. You know, we're at a disadvantage before the race even starts. We're handicapped. And this is our one resource that should be an advantage to us. We are a country on the continental shelf with the nutrients coming up from the Gulf Stream and phytoplankton that makes the ideal conditions for fish to come to our waters and spawn and breed, and cetaceans and everything else. Yet it is our advantage. It would be the same as us going down and putting a huge umbrella up over the Spaniards and saying, well, you can't have a holiday destination anymore. Do you know what I mean? They're taking away our rights to catch our fish around their own coastline. And that's why that fact sheet is so important, because the truth finally came out that we're catching 2 in every 10 fish of the fish that swim around our island. Like, can you imagine the fact sheet that if we had that for every other country and how much fish we're catching around their waters? It's 0. The only other real nation that we catch a bit of fish around is the UK. So we catch a bit of their fish, you know, but like nothing in comparison to what they in return get in our waters. And the same for every other country. And we are a small island nation on the periphery of Europe. And if a common fishery policy is meant to protect us, not destroy us. And hopefully, you know, when we get to meet the commissioner at the end of this month, we'll get to put that message to him and ask him, how can this be? How can you write a law and a policy that you believe should be enacted in such a way, and then the member state goes completely haywire in what they prescribe, and you stand back and you say, well, we gave them permission to maybe change the laws. But like, if they don't do it to the same degree that they wanted to do it, they can intervene there. They can take an infringement case out against the member state. But when they're crucifying us more, oh, there's no problem with that. Let them off. I find it incredible. So there is no level playing pitch. As far as I'm concerned, we're the team on the side of a mountain but the Europeans are on the goal up the mountain further, and all they have to do is just drop the ball into the net rather than even kick it. You know, it's crazy what's happening.
They're in automatic qualifying, and we're doing group stages trying to get through.
Yeah. So, and now back to the other issues that are facing us. Like, for a press release to come out in response to some of the cries for help or justice from my colleagues in the north, in Killybegs, just to be able to get their fish in a good market state and good quality to get the best price that they possibly can for their fish. They were told that the European Union had put in requests that impeded that. I find that incredible that in this day and age, we have foreign boats coming into our ports that say, woof, this doesn't happen in my country. I'm not landing my fish here. I'm not going to take a cut. I'll steam down the coastline and we'll land it into the coastal state. And then that transcribes into, right, you took the fish from the coastal state. Dairy's not in Ireland. We'll take away your weighing payments. We'll close you down. We'll take away the jobs in periphery, the coastal communities. Who can make sense of something like that? Like, so we're happy that finally the Dáil Committee for Agriculture and Fisheries and Food have deemed it appropriate to call the SFPA before them and discuss some of the things that are happening in the industry. And this is from a point or a position where this organization was independently audited, right? And 3 reports of recommendations, not 1, 2, but 3 reports of recommendations were made. I hope that the committee will ask them to go through those reports and see how far they've got with the recommendations. And see, is this competent authority still deemed to be competent to do the job, and the very important job that they do for our industry, you know, to allow us to get fish to market, and that the fish as well, too, in fairness, the hygiene standards and the quality of the fish is appropriate and correct and safe and is accredited for being so. Like, somebody has to explain to the industry, how can other countries in the European Union have vessels that don't go through the same process as we have to do in Ireland? I can't understand it, you know? And again, these are some things that we will be raising with the Commissioner at the end of this month when we go out to see him. Hopefully he will be there to see us. I know he's a busy man. Rather than, you know, it'll be a face-to-face that we can have that interaction and have some dedicated time to meet him.
Yesterday, or May 11th, the Minister announced the Brexit voluntary tie-up scheme. What's the IS&WFPO's opinion on that?
Look, anything that will alleviate the pressures that are on the industry at the moment with fuel prices. Again, something else that we didn't foresee, you know, a war in the Ukraine and the response from the European Union. That's not mine to debate. That's those in power. But the knock-on effects of that has hampered us. And the European Union from that has reached out and said, well, take this money and tie up your boats. What I can't find credible is this, is that is to deal with a specific issue and problem. So I cannot understand then that, say, a boat that takes this because he's no option, in 6 months' time will be told, right, you got this money, and now we're going to take it back off you because you're decommissioning the boat. And the reason why you're decommissioning the boat is because we took the fish off you, and we're going to take that off you as well. So, like, you know, for the minister to accept that, it's beyond me. I don't understand why, you know, that we keep being bullied by in such a manner. You know, it's grateful to get the money, but sure, what good is it to you if it's not enough? And my last point on that is this: we asked for 2 6-month periods for the tie-up scheme. We lost 1 month because we didn't get sanctioned under the state aid rules from Brussels. This is what we were told. But we definitely need to extend it. So I will welcome the minister's press release where he looks to extend it himself and to go back to Brussels to extend it. But it just shows the dire state that this industry is in, where people who have boats worth millions of euros can't wait to tie them to the pier wall and not fish, not make money to survive. It's a clear statement of where our fishing industry is in this particular junction in our history. And I think it's sad. I think it's a sad indictment of our country with the richest fishing grounds that are clearly stated in this fact sheet, you know, that the fish are here, yet we're not given the opportunity to get a fair share of them just to keep our fleet going. This on the backdrop, Oliver, that we've already seen 2 decommissioning schemes. Our fleet is nothing in comparison to the size that it was when we joined the EU. It's been decimated. Our membership of the EU has decimated the numbers of our fishing fleet. We have been allowed to modernize our fleet, which are what good is that now if it's that modern fleet is going to be forced to be taken off us again. So it's like our fishermen were duped into investing into the industry, only later on to be told, right, thanks, before you can get your value out of it, we're taking it off you. It's like being walked to the pearly gates and shown the inside and said, well, there you go now, that's as far as you're going. Off you go, you know, you have the ticket to get in, but nah, not you. It is cruelty. It is terror. Terror.
As usual, it's always been great speaking to you, and thank you very much for your time. We'll have you back again, and we'll discuss what's happening after the events in Europe at the end of the month, and we'll have your opinion on that as well.
Perfect. Listen, thanks so much, Oliver, for giving us the platform again to speak about these issues. They're critical. If only the media, besides yourself, could pass this on to the public, I think we'd get better support, because I don't think they'd agree with what's happening to their own countrymen in their own country, right around them, their next door neighbours. You know, fishermen risk all, and we are far often too reminded of this, you know, when we hear the tragedies and losses and, you know, fellas even being winched off boats. It is a tough industry, like, and I think we deserve to be treated a little bit better than we are.